In the genocidal 1980s, government-backed forces arrived in this village and murdered every adult male.
Julio! If you notice, the leaders who are here are young because all of their fathers were killed by the army and paramilitaries. And these are the people who are still here, who are now the leaders of the community. And they view this situation about mining as another terrible reminder of the tragedy that they've already suffered. There's nowhere else to go, and they're not willing to give up what little they still have. And they're very decided that they're not going to allow these mining projects to go forward.
Before the community meeting begins, everyone is fed in a community hall, including Daniel.
Yum, yum.
Kekchi have gathered from several surrounding villages. They know the meeting may decide their future and their fate. Daniel is invited to speak.
Dios, feliz Dios. Bueno, yo esta mañana, en primer lugar, quisiera agradecerles su presencia y también la bienvenida que ustedes me han brindado para estar
We
con
know
ustedes esta
that with this
mañana.
fight, who has the power?
Y ellos, mientras
I am
que
concerned that because of the company and the government actions, they are provoking you.
ilegalmente,
They want you to attack one of the miners or kill somebody.
pero
You
yo
have to
pienso
avoid
que
that,
realmente lo que están
because if you
haciendo
don't, the consequences of this fight to defend your terrain and natural resources in a violent way is that you will lose.
la excusa, por decirlo así, de poder
La Defensoría and the
permitirles
Catholic Church
venir aquí
are here to support you,
mano dura.
but follow the strategy of non-violence within legal framework. If we don't do this, it can be a very violent situation. This is something we can learn from events in the past.
Muy difícil.
They want to declare an emergency status. This has happened before. Declare calamity and move in. You don't have to make violent reactions. Non-violence has more possibility of winning.
The men listen, but do they agree? Some days later, after Daniel's headed home, Kekchi's young and old hike towards the site where they've heard the company is sending workers to plant trees. Something that will make growing crops or building homes on this land impossible. They plan to occupy the area and wait for company officials and workers to arrive, perhaps accompanied by the police. Every car that passes sends a charge through the crowd. But as morning turns into a hot and dusty afternoon, the Kekchi are still the only people here.
Segundo desalojo. Y va a venir otro
We are
desalojo.
owners of that piece of land, and we are not going to leave.
Para que esos niños
And we will stay here so our children have a place to live and food to eat.
tengan su ama cerca. Pero marcar el lado para estar aquí la otra.
A young man suggests that everyone should march towards the site where villagers were forcibly evicted from their homes. There, they hope company officials will listen to what the Kekchi have to say. Daniel has heard about the day's events and races to join the protesters.
But probably, I think they'd be the men, not the kids.
The Kekchis intend to engage company officials, not with violence, but with signs and speeches.
Aquí está mi casa, fue que lo desarmaron la compañía cuando...
The woman was explaining that this is where her house was. It was torn down by the police last weekend. She had this rebuilt. She and her husband had to go and work in a plantation for a month to be able to have enough money to be able to just build this much because they have nowhere else to live.
Que nos dejen en paz y que nos dejan libre porque esta tierra es nuestro, es de nosotros.
Miran cantidades de gente, porque tú no lo sabes, todos son jóvenes, todos son maestros de la aldea que andan trabajando.
Un compromiso, por ejemplo, en una reunión.
We will defend this land. We will defend it for us and for our children.
Lo que se va a tratar para toda la vida.
We're not saying companies shouldn't come to mind. We should want to have peace. Give us peace. Because the truth is, we're not going to leave this place until we die.
In the distance, the protesters spot company men on the roof of a building. This time, the company will have to listen to what the Kekchi have to say. As they reach the building, they spot another group of company men watching them and taking pictures of the crowd. After Guatemalan officials evict native people from land sold to a mining company, protesters march to make their voices heard by company workers. There, they hope company officials will listen to what the Kekchi have to say. But the Kekchi will not be heard today. In the months that follow, Daniel continues to advocate patiently for dialogue, not confrontation. And one day, company officials agree to talk. Daniel advises Kekchi leaders to bargain, but be willing to compromise.
We can't pretend that there's only going to be one winner and one loser, and that the Kekchis are going to be the winners. There's only going to be one winner, it won't be them. So what you have to do is find ways that they can have two winners.
After lengthy negotiations with company and government officials, some Kekchi farmers were given the opportunity to sign agreements giving them title to at least part of their traditional land. Daniel hopes this is only the beginning.
My hope would be that Kekchi people have the opportunity to one day develop the agricultural and cultural options that are really part of their culture, and really to be able to live decent lives and participate fully in the life of Guatemala. A Guatemala that's multicultural and multilinguistic.